Well, from raising taxes to considering expanding the court and creating a crisis at the border, President Biden has wasted no time working to undo any successes, all successes by the Trump administration. And a New York Post op-ed predicts this is just the beginning, arguing, quote, if it ain't broke, Joe Biden will break it.
Here to react is former White House press secretary and co-host of Outnumbered, Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, welcome and congratulations on that new position. I saw it this week. You were doing great. And, this is the thing, Kayleigh. There's an understanding that when a new administration comes in, obviously, there's going to be some changes made. Obviously, there's going to be some rejection of former policies. The problem for me with this is that there were some policies under the Trump administration, particularly some related to the border, that were just working. And it seems like there is just a commitment to just undo, regardless of whether these policies were actually effective or not. What's your take on what you see happening across the board?
Yeah, it's exactly right, particularly on immigration, as you noted. Look, former acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf has said we warned the President Biden's incoming administration that if they rolled back these policies, in fact, they'd see this crisis on the border. And now you even almost have a tacit admission, if reporting is accurate, that the Biden administration is acknowledging this because the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, has reportedly told folks at ICE that he might need to close some of the gaps in the Trump wall. In other words, resume construction of the border wall. We'll see if that actually happens, but it's almost a tacit admission that it was working under Trump. They realize it, and at least hushed whispers around DHS are saying, hey, maybe we need to go back to some of those policies.
Hey, Kayleigh, I don't know that these two motivations are mutually exclusive, but when you look at the agenda over the first 75 days of the Biden administration, do you see one driven by far left ideologies, or do you see one more shallowly driven by simply undoing what President Trump did? In other words, if President Trump was for it, we are against it. I think for many, by the way, in Georgia, that's what it was about. President Trump ultimately was what motivated people to feel one way or another about the Georgia law, not really ideology in the end. It's been so shallow, everything for 4 years, Kayleigh. It's always been about President Trump. Is it still?
I think it is, yes, but I do, and I agree, they're not mutually exclusive, but I do think that there is this far left radicalism that has taken over the Biden administration. And I mean, just look at the policies. We named some coming in, Pete did, about, packing the court, assault weapons ban. The immigration plan that he put forward was a marked change from the Obama-era administration plan, which worked with the Gang of Eight, which worked with Republicans, which even though it was still not the ideal plan, at least it had some border security measures in there. Biden hasn't done that. And I said when the reporting came out that he was talking to Obama, I said, I think he's putting far more calls into AOC. And it came out days later. In fact, the chief of staff had talked to AOC. An article came out today saying AOC and her 95 other progressive members are finding a way not to buck the establishment in their party, but to work through it as if the establishment and Biden is this marionette puppet whose strings are being pulled by AOC, Ilhan Omar, and others. And that's frightening.
Kayleigh, you had a first row behind the scenes look at the Trump administration. You were right there. Whether you were inside or outside the administration, there was no doubt who was running the show. Donald Trump was running the show and setting the prerogatives. It's hard to look inside the Biden White House and get your arms around who's running the show. I mean, based on what you can see, who's guiding the rudder inside that White House?
It is a fascinating question because, Pete, we were told by Biden, I'm a moderate uniter. And remember, the press, the Washington Post, New York Times, and others went to great pains to say, this guy is the great moderate. He's not a leftist. He's middle of the road. Well, he comes in, and everything coming out of the administration is anything but moderate. So you're left to believe either, one, Biden is totally coherent and he was just lying to us for months and months and months, or he's not running the show. It's Kamala, it's the far left, and he's just sitting there in the Oval letting the far left radicals lead the way through Congress. So it's one or the other, and I wish we had more of an answer, but this is the least transparent administration, certainly in the last few decades. We never get press conferences, and when we do, the one we got was muddled and incoherent.
Yeah, Kayleigh, unfortunately, there's a theme of being absent. Joe Biden was largely absent on the campaign trail, and now you're seeing Vice President Kamala Harris be absent at the border. I mean, it's really just unthinkable stuff going on with respect to that issue. But thank you for being with us this morning. And everyone who doesn't know, although I'm sure you all know already, you can catch Kayleigh weekdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Outnumbered, Monday to Friday. Thanks, Kayleigh.
Thanks, Kayleigh.
Thank you, Jed.